Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard with your host, Bill Stierle, and boy, Bill, we have a lot to talk about and consider today. As we're recording this, it is really soon after Super Tuesday. There's been a lot going on, not only amongst the Democratic field, but also with what we're hearing from the president and his supporters. And, you mentioned something to me before this, before we started recording that I'm really curious to discuss with you. And that is that you see Trump seems to be gaining strength. And I'm curious as to what you mean by that specifically. And then I'm interested to discuss that.
Well, the seem to be gaining strength is it's a part of it is watching him in front of his groups. And the thing I felt so shocked about and also saddened by and disturbed by, had a lot of different feelings about it. It had to do with a lot of the need for respect and need for integrity and literally how truth has been kind of like hijacked around people and their beliefs and their biases. They've been kind of hijacked, Tom. And so, it came into a couple of different moments. One of the moments is when Trump was giving a speech and then he shrunk down below the podium and pretended he was Bloomberg, right?
Yeah, mocking him for being not so tall. Yeah.
Knock him in. And that reminded me of the time when George H. Bush patted on the top of Dukakis's head after one of the debates. Just reached out, patted him on top of the head at the end of the debate. And it had that superiority, I'm bigger than you kind of guy. And of course, Dukakis swung back at him,
right?
But it was already too late because he could have took a shot at him verbally in the debate and passed on it, and now at the end it was like over already because he didn't stand up and present as strong. So when Trump leaned down like that, the crowd roared.
Right.
And said 4 more years. And as soon as I heard the 4 more year narrative, I was going like, they don't want a president. They want to be entertained.
Isn't that interesting?
They have put their beliefs behind this guy will say wacky stuff that makes me laugh and gets under the skin of those people that I'm voting against. It gets under their skin and they can't do anything about it because the guy I'm voting for gets under their skin, and they've been getting under my skin for years. And it's a little bit of payback towards being in a government structure that is for the people instead of for the individual. See, our country really battles between we the people, for the people, support all the people, and the belief that I'm a rugged individual, that if I work hard, Puritan work ethic, if um, I get to keep the things that I work hard for. See,
So it's somewhere between America's for everyone and America's where you can, succeed for yourself, where you can serve your own self-interests.
Serve your own selfish interests. The self-interest part is the thing that's leading the current narrative right now. My self-interest. Over the weekend, I read this book called Winner Takes All. It's the name of the book. It's a brand new book that's out.
Okay.
And it's about the wealthy 1%, 0.1%, and what they do with their donations. They donate to foundations and they donate. And what happens is truth has been purchased by people that have money, that we're the do-gooders. We're solving the world's problems.
You mean the people with money?
People with money.
Okay.
There, we see this social issue. We're going to take, 10 million and throw it at it. And look, here's our conference. Here's our foundation. We parade a half dozen people that we helped, our success stories. They tell how grateful they were to have the donation of this foundation and how it saved their life. But what it doesn't ask is this. It doesn't say the tax breaks that you got for donating to that foundation needed to go into the common pool, not into your identity's pool. Identity versus community is really where the battle is.
Well, and
the individual versus the community. That's where the battle really is. That's really more where the truth is. So Trump is gaining steam because, to come back around to your question, which is a complex one, it's gaining steam because the rugged individual, the outlier, loudmouth cowboy that gets to say what he wants and live out on the plain and do what he wants, and his family is distant. Trump's family is distant, just like the cowboy's family is distant. He's the lone person. None of his family are standing in it there and sharing the spotlight. There's no Hillary and Bill team doing something.
no.
There's no powerful woman standing next to powerful man. There's this rich, independent individual, and the judgment would be, has his trophy wife. That would be a judgment or a label.
Probably a fairly accurate one, but yes.
Yeah, truth doesn't, again, help us here. It doesn't, because I'm not going to judge that strategy of living a life and being in a world and what has to go, what a person goes through with that, that experience. At the same time is that it's the individual identity belief versus what's good for the community. And what has been really destructive is, over the last 40 years, the communities have been unraveled and people have been forced into their homes for their entertainment, into their gated communities, into their redlined, districts and all this stuff. And the ability to have the same type of community support and has not been established. So the the cheering of that crowd for Trump is, we are cheering the person that's standing for the individual. We are not voting or cheering for the person, no matter how good it's going to be for us, the person, Bernie Sanders, that wants to have an aren't you going to care for your other Americans here? And by the way, I'm not even asking you for anything. I'm asking for fairness for the people who are taking the tax money at the top. I'm not even asking from you. But it's going to cost too much? Are you like looking at any real budget here? No, because people regrettably are too much fighting it out with their own budget to even look at somebody else's budget. They can't even make their own budget work.
Well, that gets more into, the weeds of, the plan and explanation and things that we've
Correct.
talked about time and time again,
Correct.
people don't pay attention to. And of course, Trump is nothing if not a brilliant marketer.
Yep.
And, it's regrettable that he stoops to junior high school marketing, kneeling down and making himself seem shorter, labeling and diagnosing Mike Bloomberg. I mean, that is
Name
not
calling.
being an adult in the room at all. Certainly not being a
No.
presidential leader like
No.
a lot of Americans would like to have. But, I Bill, I hear you that is concerning for sure. But the most of the people that are cheering for that are going to be people that only get their news from Fox News. They are going to be his base of support. They are not the people that swung the election for him and stayed home because they were unhappy Bernie wasn't the candidate in
Right.
2016 against Trump instead of Hillary. They're
That's right.
not the, independents that thought, maybe a businessman would be better to run the country,
Yeah.
and I do think there's a lot of disillusionment. I mean, there's a lot
Right.
of Americans that really do not like Trump and they don't believe he's delivered on what he thought he would. And of course, we could go on and on. I could give you a list, but the question is one of the Democratic candidates going to be able to bring enough of America together, or are the beliefs, I guess, of enough of the, electorate
Yes.
going to be
The
in
beliefs.
alignment with, you know, replacing Trump?
The beliefs. If you think about the how the different candidates performed on the debate stage, and who is the person that was the strongest advocate for their beliefs on the debate stage? The strongest advocate.
Okay.
If you
Strongest
think about
advocate?
advocate, in other words, my
It's
way is the way forward.
gotta be Bernie, doesn't it?
It does. Bernie was the strongest advocate for, here's my beliefs, here's the way forward, here's what's kicking our butt, here's what the truth is about that. Notice that did not help him against Joe Biden.
No,
Didn't.
did not.
There were some messaging changes that I would have coached him into to get it to raise the other 10% that he needed. And then, because the 10% that he needed was the 10% that needed to feel relieved or optimistic because he could talk in a stable way and communicate in a stable way. He doesn't. He communicates in a convincing way. I am looking to convince you instead of I am communicating to connect with you.
He's
Yeah.
really feeding this movement narrative, the revolution narrative, even if he doesn't use the word.
Right.
And I think that really that is what that 10 to 15% that he needs to vote for him is concerned about, because the other side is labeling Bernie as a communist, as a socialist. These are incorrect labels. He calls himself a democratic socialist, and that means something different. But that gets into explanation of
Right.
the nuances of these terms, which is not helpful to him. And if he
One,
did what you're suggesting,
right.
he might actually overcome that.
One word costs him 5%. One word.
Oh, okay. Well, what's the word?
Revolution.
Yeah.
We are a part of a governmental revolution. The problem with the word revolution is it's an old world word used to describe people that have guns that are coming for something. This is a revolutionary war. This is a revolution in the foreign country that we don't want to be in. Here's the way the word and the way the brain is receiving revolution is scary. It's not receiving it as calm. It is, we're implementing, we are, and it's the word that needed to replace revolution, if I let my brain think about it for a second, would be, this is the vision and the way forward for all of our fellow Americans to have health care so that we don't have Americans dying in the street. Now, it's not a revolution. It's a
Bill,
caring narrative.
I'm having an epiphany. You're completely right. And when you think about the language Bernie uses, there is similarity in the language that Elizabeth Warren uses when she says, "I'm going to fight for you." She uses that a lot, and there's a lot
I
of
don't want anybody to
overlap.
fight. I don't want to fight. I don't want
But
anybody to fight.
but
Yeah,
I
that's
agree.
right.
But there's a lot of
The
overlap
overlap.
between,
Word choice. Both of them struggle with word choice.
well, and to the electorate they appeal to. There's
right.
a lot of overlap between the two of them. You usually are younger, as I understand the demographics to be, younger Americans who I think inherently have a bit more of a rebellious streak in them, not wanting to just
Right.
put up with the rules that their parents and grandparents set up for them.
Right.
And so that's very interesting. The two of them do have similar narratives. And look at the contrast, and then let's talk about what happened on Super Tuesday in this context.
Right.
Is that you had multiple candidates. You had Pete Buttigieg drop out. You had Amy Klobuchar drop out after South Carolina. And then they, along with Beto O'Rourke in Texas, ding, ding, ding. Everybody saw what happened in the Texas results, right?
Right.
They all threw their support behind Joe Biden. But was it a message of revolution? Was it a message of, you know, that kind of fierce advocacy? It wasn't. It was a message more of unity, coming together to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in the history of our country. As a that was some of the language used. I'm not making a judgment myself. I'm trying
Right.
to sort of
Right.
paraphrase.
Sure.
And it was very different. It was one of unity, coming together, supporting each other, and
Yeah.
supporting Joe Biden. So I think that had a big impact on the results Super Tuesday. And the other thing is another need, I think, that more Americans seem to have than this need to overthrow the system, to recreate the system. And that need is, Bill?
Certainty.
Certainty, maybe a little safety.
Safety, and certainty. Those two are right next to each other.
Yeah.
Safe. I want it safe. Even if I don't like my insurance, I want it safe. Even though I don't like paying it, I want it safe. I don't like paying my deductible,
Oh,
but I want it safe. I'm familiar with paying with my deductible.
This is so resonating with me, Bill, in a literal sense. And just to digress for a second, is that
Sure.
I have a car, I have a vehicle that's about 6 years old,
Right.
and I bought the extended warranty. And boy, am I glad I did, because last week the transmission had a major problem and it was in for service, and they ended up having to replace the whole transmission, which would have cost me over $4,000. Maybe a repair I wouldn't have done, and maybe would have rather put that $4,000 on a new car. But it didn't cost me a dime because I had the extended warranty. So I can understand that.
Safety
and insurance.
Insurance and stability around how the insurance system works. See, the human animal doesn't, once it decides on something, it doesn't want to rethink it, because I've picked this point of view, and it's the same problem that gamblers have, and alcoholics have, and any addict has, is I don't want to rethink where my pain is coming from. I just know it's my pain, and this is how I can medicate it. This is my pain. I am a rugged individual that's in pain. I am handling that rugged individualness on my own accord by drinking more than my body would like, then gambling more than is safe for me to do without losing my house. I don't want to rethink it because it's stable, even though it's tragic.
Well, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Don't you think that a lot of Americans who are not a part of Trump's base are exhausted, mentally exhausted?
Oh yeah,
the behavior and
we're really exhausted.
On.
Exhausted.
And doesn't that explain a bit of Joe Biden's resurgence in this campaign? And what happened on Super Tuesday is, for all of Joe's faults, what you get with Joe, don't you?
He's a connector. He's the need for connection, the one over the need for innovation and change. The connector guy beat the idea guy. That's what's coming down the pike. Now, whether or not that's true or not fully yet, the game is not over yet.
Oh, no question. And believe me, things have changed so much in 72 hours, earlier
Correct.
this week, that we may have an entirely different situation in another week or two. So
right.
I completely agree.
See, it's interesting that if you and I know about, thinking styles and stuff. It's like the interpersonalizer, the Joe Biden is an interpersonalizer. He's a connector. He's a hugger. He is, I'll listen to you. I'm not going to do anything about it, but I'm listening to. It is, and whereas Bernie's the innovator, he's going like, this is the problem. Here's the vision. Here's the way out. And with this way out, I can get you there, because this is not rocket science. And he's right, but it's not helpful. It's not helpful. And if his message was positioned as an interpersonalized message versus that had vision, rather than this idea is going to work, and look at Finland. And, it seems like.
And Cuba didn't have it all bad.
And Cuba didn't have it all bad, And no, Cuba, that's the challenge is that the rugged individuals, the mob that was running Cuba got thrown out by Castro. That's really kind of what happened. It's like these mobsters, and that's what they were down there, were running his country. And he's going like, we can't let these mobsters, and they were American mobsters, run our country. They have got to go. Now they tilted all the way over to the extreme part of it, that anybody that was involved with the mobsters, they didn't like recultivate, they, executed and so on and so forth. But what a challenge, what a challenge to watch history in the making and watch how beliefs and biases and how safety and certainty run the show. And the pundits, all the different news people, are surprised. Why didn't Bernie win more? It's like, you're not concentrating on the right need. The right need is the country is left, the right, just a little right of center. The entire country is a little right of center. And you can't go this way, too much left with your messaging. You can go left once you're in, but you can't necessarily go left with your messaging to try to get in. Doesn't go as well. Doesn't go as well. Messaging.
Well, so let's go return to President Trump for a moment, and where you were pointing out him at this rally labeling Mike Bloomberg. So it's very interesting. Trump labeled Joe Biden a year ago,
Right.
calling him Sleepy Joe. And of course, he tried to make Biden synonymous with corruption. He may still try to do that with the whole Burisma and Hunter Biden thing. And, but, he's already done it. You can't unring that bell. And I don't know that Trump is going to have, anything new for season 2 here of
He doesn't
Trump
need
versus Biden.
He doesn't need it. He's got his label. He repeats it, looks for places to put it, looks for opportunities for a gaffe to take place, and then pounces on it. You want that guy leading? The guy that can't remember who he's being interviewed by? Of course, Trump can't remember anybody he's being interviewed by. But he pretends that he knows everybody and everybody's his friend. I know that person. I got, yes, I have the best people. It's like,
But the interesting thing here to me, though, is that Trump thought he already defeated Biden. He really did. He thought he labeled him and diagnosed him and Burisma'd him right out of the nomination. And I think it's very clear because the president is really not hard to read. I mean, seriously, he
might be a little surprised. I think he might be a little bit surprised, but a lot of times he doesn't know the level or the damage that he's done to Joe. Joe is sitting around with a lot of damage that nobody knows about. And let's go and talk about the damage. Okay, here's the damage that Joe has right now. There are literally, I would say, probably about 2 million people who voted for Barack Obama. And then those 2 million or so also voted for Donald Trump. They swung over to Trump, away from Barack to Trump. Okay?
I'm surprised that's that few, but I'll accept that. Sure.
I'm just going to use a small number, 2 million, great, because it's believable. And and I'm not going to say it's 10, but it's okay. I have some sense that there's 2 to 5 million, maybe. Okay. Yeah. Now, why is this important? Because the reason why those people were influenced is because Trump did not need to prove that Joe Biden was corrupt, had a corrupt, or his son had a corrupt experience. They didn't need that. Trump needed to cultivate doubt and skepticism inside the bodies of the voter. That I know what I'm getting with Trump, I am not sure about what's behind the curtain of Biden. Trump can lie at me all day. I know Trump's a liar. Everybody calls him a liar. I lie sometimes. There's my bias. I'm a good person and I lie. Trump's must be, he lies and he's a good person. That is a confirmation bias. I mean, it's not true from my humble bias belief is, I would say the rule of law says this, and that was something that he did, and he kind of didn't get punished for it. That would be my perspective of truth. Okay, so peeling back this little complexity thing is the feeling of doubt and skepticism is what you would like, if you're a candidate, you would like those two feelings to be in the minds of a voter as they're going into the booth towards the person that you're competing against. You want them to feel doubt and skepticism. Then you got a shot at it. Because if they feel doubt and skepticism about Joe, they might get there and go like, yeah, I guess I'll just tolerate, Trump the way I tolerated my abusive father. Check.
Well,
I know it's there. Check.
Well, there's one thing that surprises me, or is somehow inconsistent in well, at least in my mind, as to what you're saying, Bill, because you're saying, Trump's already done it. The doubt and skepticism is there. It's not going to go away. He's going to keep hammering it, and Trump may beat Joe Biden because of it. Why does Trump fear Joe Biden so much, though? He has feared him the whole time. He's been the one that I believe, it seems very clear, Trump has feared Biden more than any other candidate. He thinks he can beat anybody else in the field but Joe. That's why he's put his sights on him for so long.
Because Joe's an interpersonalizer. He connects well with people, and Trump does not connect with people. Joe Biden knows how to care for people. Trump doesn't respect people who cares for others. It's his weak spot because he doesn't care about people.
Well, and I think that is why
that's why he doesn't like him that much.
Well, and I think that what you just said there probably has a lot to do with why Joe Biden won many states on Super Tuesday, that he didn't put one ad in the state at all, and he did not visit the state at all.
No, didn't even show.
It probably has a lot to do with it.
It's a shocker. The need for connection, name familiarity, branding, the belief that somebody is doing good in the world, that people are putting that behind Joe Biden. He's a good person. He has sacrificed. I mean, he and his family have sacrificed for this nation greater than any other, and than all the candidates combined. His family,
including the president, I would say.
Including the president. Absolutely. Absolutely. Him and his family, are you kidding me? His son died from a military wound, I think,
he died of cancer, I thought, but he certainly served in the military.
And right. He had military thing, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he continued to serve America despite, early on when he was in government, he lost his daughter and wife in a car accident.
Still,
and, I mean, look, the guy's had all kinds of tragedy and certainly has served the country incredibly.
Yeah, and I think that also one of the things that Biden, why Trump doesn't like or fears Biden too, is that he has a command of language that Trump does not have. And a little bit of that, I'm going to kick your ass. I'm going to kick your ass.
Definitely has some of that.
I am definitely going to, Trump, I'm coming and I'm going to kick your ass.
Yeah.
And then he has the nice guy thing to, to kind of go along with it. But you, sir, I'm going to kick your ass. It's like, I'm not standing for that, and
That's an interesting. Let's hang on that point for a second, because I saw, and I don't remember who it was. It wasn't a very well known, news correspondent, but I saw just recently in the last 24, 48 hours, someone talk about, you know, um, campaigning against Trump, competing against Trump, and the guy said, when he hits you, you've got to hit back harder. And I don't know that I agree with that. I think that plays a bit into Trump's hand a bit, whereas,
yeah, it does.
as we often talk about, if you actually come back with empathy and compassion, it would be much more effective. And
it melts him. It melts him like the Wicked Witch. It melts him. It's like a bucket of water on his head.
And
it just melts him.
maybe Joe, at times you don't know which kind of Joe you're going to get when you're in those situations. Is he going to come back the fighter, like you said, I'm going to kick your butt, even though I am trying, even though I am going to work to bring people together over here,
right.
Which one's going to show up and what message is going to come out. You said he has a command of language, and I kind of smirked as you said that, because I don't know if I would have called it that. He's kind of gaffe prone, but maybe he has a better command.
No, you know what? I'm really glad you called me on that. And what I mean by the command of language is that when he gets fired up about something, he has a voice of conviction.
Oh,
he
for
does.
Sure.
When he is not fired up something and he's in the interpersonal space, his language goes all over the place. And just like we're cringing right now for the things that Trump says and does, when Joe Biden gets in there, and granted, a miracle happening on Bernie's side, when Joe Biden gets in there, the other side will be cringing with all the different gaffes, mistakes, the niceties, all the different things, because they voted for the rugged individual. And that's what, by the way, that's one of the things that Bernie has. He's the rugged individual. He just happens to be on the wrong side, because if he was the rugged individual on that side, he would more come off like, Bush did against Gore. He would come off like, hey, I've got this thing. I'm nailing this thing. And, that conviction, mission accomplished, where there was no mission accomplished anywhere, Yeah. So I'm saying it's over because it's over. Well, it's not over. You're sitting, this is, it's just because you call it over doesn't mean it's over.
Right. Very interesting. Well, what do you think happens in November if or when Trump is defeated? Do you think that Trump's actually going to go quietly?
He needs an off-ramp, and there's no off-ramp in sight. He needs to have his need for respect and recognition be guaranteed for 5 to 10 years somehow in order for him to leave, because he's a respect and recognition guy. So if there were places in the world or offers by certain countries for him to build a new hotel, or to be in this other place in another part of the world where he could get his need for recognition and acknowledgement met with the people that benefited so handsomely under his leadership / tax breaks, then he'll move, because he'll move to, he's got a little bit of that virus energy in him. He just moves to the next thing he can consume. And right now he's kind of feeding off the energy of what the presidency is giving him. And, and the host isn't dead yet, so he's not leaving. It's a weird way to say it. But I mean, if he stays another 4 years, it's a rough go. Because and let alone if the Senate stays the same, there'll be nothing done in 4 years. There will be
Well, yeah, no,
nothing
if he
done.
stays another 4 years at the end of 2024, he goes. He's tired. He's done it. He doesn't.
He doesn't need
He's
it
not going to
anymore.
try to stay.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. But if he gets thrown out, if the country goes, you're fired, Donald Trump,
Right.
here in 2020. I mean, there is a lot of concern. I think Bill Maher always talks about it on his show a
Right.
lot. Is that he's not going to leave. You're going to have to get the military to throw him out or something like this, and
Yeah, there's no plan, and the military having that step in is what they would call in other countries a coup.
right.
But wait a minute, we're following the rule of law. But wait a minute, there's no his bar is not going to say, Mr. President, it's time for you to go, unless the real hordes are really at the gate, and the Washington, D.C., there can be no traffic or no movement in anything because people are literally in the streets that much, maybe. But
Well, I
I don't
think
know.
that
It's a toughie. This one's a tough
if
one.
Trump stays within the White House, doesn't go to the inauguration of a new president, because there will be an inauguration of a new president. The Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will show up on the steps of Capitol Hill and will swear in a new president. I mean, at some
Right.
point, it wouldn't be a coup because the military would be acting on orders from the president at that time. But that would be very ugly.
It is it is just there there is a plan. It's like how can you trust? How can you trust? And that's what happens when truth gets hijacked like this, is that trust is the next thing that falls. I mean, our emotional physiology is set up in such a way that when the need for truth is not met, we feel doubt. And a cousin to the emotion of doubt is the emotion of skeptical. Well, skeptical is caused by the need for trust. So now I got truth and trust under the bus because the human being is feeling doubtful and skeptical because they're having a hard time extending trust. The biggest damage that's been done is to those two words, truth and trust. Even in the handling of the virus, it's truth and trust has been really the casualty. You don't know how to trust, other than a person saying, trust me, it's going to go away in April. It's like, you're not even using a measuring, any kind of marker, any kind of quantifier. You're not even doing this by looking at the numbers. It's all going to work out.
Yeah, this whole
Not so much about it.
coronavirus thing could blow up in Trump's face and hurt significantly if he doesn't start acting, in
Yeah.
a certain way.
Yeah, he's not going to change. He's not going to change. He's not going to start acting in a certain way. There's no such thing as that. He's going to reinforce biases. He's going to reinforce the belief that he knows best because people voted him in on that. I know best. Vote for me. I know best. Why? Because I know best. Your dad knows best. Remember how you trusted your dad? Well, trust me like you trusted your dad. Yeah. Your dad was a crappy dad too. Yeah, I'm a crappy dad too. Look at that. We have that in common.
Wow.
That's the way biases work. That's the way beliefs work. That's the way the imprint works. I mean, we're animals, just like birds migrating south for the winter. We are very, very hijackable, and our brain is very, very hijackable.
Well, then you need to learn to hijack it the other way.
Right, and that's what that's what change is about. Is that, and that's why this podcast is so important. And you and I rolled up our sleeves on it. Is that we are allowed to hijack our brain and move it into place for our best interest, not for our safe habits. See the difference? We can
Yes.
We can hijack it for our best interests rather than our safe habits. Tom, you're not getting paid the same money you did when you were 25, right?
Right.
You were able to shift your brain in order to figure out how to meet the need for financial security in a different way than your 25-year-old self did. Right?
Definitely. Yes.
Good. So it's the same in politics. We need to hijack our brain in a way that serves us and serves the greater good of the nation, not the rugged individual that wants to get his own way and asks people to trust. And by the way, who's asking a cowboy to take leadership here? There's no leadership here. It's the lone guy out on the, on the farm trying to round up some cattle or some sheep.
Sheep would be a better metaphor.
Metaphor. All right. So Tom, next time I think what we can do is we could talk about what are some belief biases that Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders need to continue down the path of, and what are some sentences that they can activate, into action? What are some things that could move them forward, and move their narrative and forward, so that it will go better.
Okay, good. I think that's fantastic. Let's do that. Okay, Bill, thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.